This is Tom Tucker coming to you from the Pacific Northwest, and I want to read to you a tribute to my good friend Ken Norman, who died earlier this week in Dallas, Texas. In 1972, as I was starting 11th grade, and I noticed an unusual character sitting in study hall class at the beginning of the school year. He was big, and he had dark curly hair and a baby face, and I had never noticed him at school before. Most unusually, he carried a canvas bag with a Star of David on it and a motto that said, "Never again." I'd never seen anything like that in Oak Cliff. He sat reading avidly, and I was intrigued by his appearance. He was like the guy in that commercial, the most interesting man in the world, only as a teenager. As I walked by his desk, I was inspired to pluck his book out of his hands and ask him what he was reading. At that very moment, a wonderful friendship was born. Norm, as we called him, never Ken, even though Ken was his real first name, became one of my best friends, along with Randy Simmons, who welcomed Norm into our already close friendship and companionship. From then on, the three of us were virtually inseparable. We were often joined by Norm's younger friend, Rocky Price, and we called ourselves the Three Musketeers and Squire Incorporated. It was all for one and one for all. Norm's bedroom became our headquarters, and how his parents and sister Carol put up with us there, I'll never know. When we weren't out carousing, that's where we were. Now, I can't reveal to you all of our adventures, but I can tell you that it was the most fun I've ever had in my entire life. Our friendship was built on books, movies, poetry, music, and the sort of deep philosophical discussions that only teenagers can have. It was not, I'll hasten to add, built on sports or exercise. In fact, I had never met a person less interested in sports than Norm, even though he was big and as strong as an ox. Just a few years later, though, he had become an excellent racquetball player. And even though he had never had an ounce of interest in football, he ended up marrying a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. Again, the most interesting man in the world. Above all, our friendship was built on laughter. And until I met my wife, I have never laughed so much, so often, or so deeply. Oh, the music we listened to, the books we read, the movies we saw, the television shows we watched. The more irreverent they were, the more we liked them. It was a glorious time. Norm introduced us to Stevie Wonder, to Elton John, to Blue Oyster Cult. He introduced us to exotic things like Yiddish phrases and kosher cuisine. We introduced him to how things are done in Texas. His favorite books were the Flashman novels, but he would read literally anything. We never missed Saturday Night Live in its excellent early days, and we watched every episode of Monty Python more times than you could ever count. We knew every line from Blazing Saddles by heart, and we knew the words to every song from American Graffiti. We could sing the music from the album Viva Terlingua better than Jerry Jeff Walker could. We went swimming, sightseeing, camping, boating, hiking, and cruising around the local Jack in the Box for hours. We had flocks of chicks hanging around us and coming after us. Well, actually, I made that part up, but you never know. We did eat out at our favorite restaurants on Friday and Saturday nights, and we would always try to come up with funny names to use when checking in at the front desk or making reservations. It was hilarious, like most of the things we did, at least to us. Norm's bedroom was on the second floor of his home, and one time we even devised a contraption for an emergency airlift when he had been grounded for 2 weeks and couldn't leave the house. My lips are sealed as to the nature of his infraction. But I'll tell you this, we had the time of our lives. And then we grew up. Now, I'll be honest, outside of the fun that I've had with my own wife and kids, I've never had near as much fun as an adult as I did in those days as a teenager. I think part of it is because Norm and Randy and I went our separate ways as we left high school and made our ways out into the real world. And honestly, the real world is just not as much fun. But despite going our separate ways and to other places, we never forgot each other. We always cared for each other. And we were eventually able to reconnect in person. 15 years ago, my wife surprised me by bringing Randy and Norm to Austin for my birthday in 2004. Norm had a special t-shirt made for the occasion, and I'm wearing it today. The logo says, The Three Musketeers, Austin, 2004. I was overjoyed for the three of us to be together again, and I've been overjoyed ever since. Now, there are 3 things I know for sure about Ken Norman. First, that his family, brothers, sister, and parents were the most important thing in his life. Second, that he loved his wife Kelly with all of his heart. And third, that he adored and was so proud of his daughter, Nikki. Now, here's one thing I know for sure about me, that I am so glad and so grateful that I plucked the book out of the hands of a big, curly-haired guy that we called Norm one day back when I was starting 11th grade. Today, please raise your glasses and toast to Norm and to the Three Musketeers and Squire Incorporated. All for one and one for all. I love you, Norm, and I'll miss you every day.